One Piece and are obsessed with everything.
Which is a very political anime, Connor.
It's okay. Well,
it is a very political anime.
That right there is the biggest misconception about One Piece. How can an anime built on corrupt systems, histories wiped out, freaking colonialism, according to some people, not be political? This monkey here not just see, monkey very much do. So today I'll give you 5 reasons why One Piece isn't just political, it's one of the most daring critiques of power anime has ever made. One of the earliest examples of politics in One Piece is Nami's arc with the Arlong pirates. Now I won't deny they were all assholes, but they weren't like that for no reason. Fishmen were oppressed by humans for centuries. They were enslaved, abused, and treated like lesser beings. And to make it even worse, they were even sold off by celestial dragons at slave auctions. Arlong didn't just wake up hating humans, he was raised in a world that made sure he'd never forget his place as a lowly, worthless fishman. These fishmen in One Piece represent every race or minority who were oppressed and forced into exile. Oda uses the Arlong pirates as an example to show us how even the victims of tyranny can become tyrants themselves when the cycle of hate keeps on repeating. Now, I'm not justifying his behavior. All I'm saying is that they weren't born monsters. They were labeled as such so that they could be kept in check. Why, you ask? Well, when a certain race is too strong, it upsets the system. So what better way than to keep them all locked out and call that equality? And how could we forget about the celestial dragons, who walk around with air bubbles because how dare a peasant breathe the same air as them? That alone should tell you everything you need to know about tyranny. And this is all base One Piece that requires little to no media literacy to understand. Even Luffy, in all his dumbness, gets it. And now here's the genius part. Oda can't talk about these topics openly, not unless he wants to make headlines in tomorrow's newspapers. So what does he do instead? He very cleverly hides it by writing One Piece with 2 audiences in mind. Think of it as a way of bypassing censorship. On one side, you've got the darker aspects, slavery, corruption, and the cruelty of the world government. And on the other, you have goofy humor, over-the-top gags, and fan service that got unbelievably repetitive and stale the older I got. But then I realized, it's not that One Piece stopped being funny, it's that we stopped being the target audience for these parts. They're for the kids who still laugh at them the same way we once did. And so this is how Oda intentionally wrote it so the kids can see a story about chasing dreams, while the adults see what it costs to keep dreaming. Now the next part is the most horrifying of them all. It's the Void Century in One Piece. 100 years of history wiped off the face of the earth in order to hide Oda knows what unspeakable acts. Like in Robin's arc, we see how Ohara was burned to the ground because they were the closest to figuring out what the Void Century hid. And as they say, knowledge is power, and anything that reeks of power is immediately shut down. And the 5 elders who we see aura farming every season sit right at the heart of all this power. Also, the Kanti here never smiles, so something is definitely off. Robin's entire existence is also proof that the more you know, the more danger you attract. And what better way to hide than behind the dumbest, most goofiest man alive, who was probably the last person the world government saw coming. And that, my friends, is why ignorance is bliss. Be dumb and be safe, and pretend you heard nothing here. Moving on, let's address the root of all problems, the big bad world government, who in One Piece built this centralized system with absolute control in mind, even creating the 7 warlords from among the pirates to make sure no one got too out of line, all so that the system could stand no matter what happened. But then there was a spark that exploded into the pirate era, and people who couldn't give a flying frick about the system broke the long-standing status quo in the most barbaric ways imaginable. And in the midst of all that, we have the Straw Hats, the perfect mix of brawn and brains, proving to be the biggest threat to the system yet. With Luffy being a quote-unquote the once centralized kingdom under the world government then started to crumble, and the so-called villains were sometimes doing the right thing, whereas the heroes weren't always innocent. And maybe that's exactly what Oda wants you to see, who the real villains are. And finally, some real-world examples of how the Straw Hats' Jolly Roger became a symbol of resistance worldwide. A flag that was waved in the skies for freedom, and the lines between fiction and reality were blurred. It's in times like this where you can't help but wonder that fiction is just words you can't say out loud, and it's in stories like One Piece where they can live and prosper in peace. And so One Piece might look goofy, but beneath all the laughter, it's a rebellion against a cruel system, with Oda's message simply being, the sea belongs to everyone, not just the ones born on thrones. And that's about it for now. Thank you for watching, and if you like this, be sure to follow for more. I'm gonna make a Sanji appreciation video next because Toei clearly doesn't.